Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is the Pest and Lawn Ginja, and this is What's Wrong With My Lawn? Such a beautiful day in the neighborhood, guys. Good day to diagnose, but I like to tell you exactly how I do these things. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start looking at pattern, then we're gonna look at color, then we're gonna check water saturation, and then we're gonna do a thatch test. Now I do this because it funnels us down through a little flow chart that I have in my head that's gonna tell us exactly what's going on in the lawn. Now, a lot of the times, it's going to come down to too much water, too little watering, but there's so many different variables. So let's go through this lawn and see what we got. Overall, pattern-wise, it's kind of uneven. I would say this is an uneven distribution. So staying true to everything, it looks like we're going to have to go and kind of diagnose things individually. Now, they're saying that there's no problems with the backyard, but I always like to just take a peek just in case. But everything is looking just kind of okay. I think everybody's striving for that better homes and garden look, which is what we all want to do. Go back here and see the jungle. All right. Okay, so it looks like they're right. We've got some smaller issues that they're dealing with. So at this point, we've got even distribution in the back, uneven distribution in the front. I would say the color in the back, it's passable, but it's not where I want it. It doesn't have that real deep blue color that Kentucky blue gives. Now in the front yard, we've got like 4 different kinds of grass seed. And we just kind of have to deal with that, but the backyard should just be popping. So we want to treat these individually. Let's go ahead and start on the backyard and see what we're dealing with. So color-wise, I really just want to get into it. The shade, and you can see once we start getting closer to the ground, things change a little bit. You can see the individual blades of grass. We've got a lot of melting out. We've got a lot of leaf spot, which indicates fungal issues. I'm going to assume that once we start checking into watering, we've got too much water going on. Now, if you guys have seen my previous episodes, there's a couple of things that you guys at home can do, but water management is going to be the biggest issue here. Not treating it with just a fungicide and hoping for the best. But traveling through the lawn, you can see this is a consistent issue throughout the entire lawn. It's just one tip after another is melting out. Melting out fungus is such a common problem. Now, it'd be safe for me to assume that there's just too much water and walk away and just keep going, but there's one lesson I've learned: there's always more than one problem. So I want to see exactly what the primary issue is. So I'm still going to double check and see how much water is going down and to see if there's any sections that have too much water or too little water. So you got to make sure, don't ever stop short, because what you think you know might not be the real issue. Now, there's a couple of things I do with these water tests. I love my Soil Probe by AMS, but I want to check to see what type of soil we have, whether it be sandy loam, just straight loam, a clay, a hard compact clay. That's going to be the biggest difference. So I'm just going to start taking random punches here. Whoa. You can see I'm going down pretty dang far. I mean, this is sopping wet. It's really bad. We are dealing with a hard compact clay, and it is not porous at all, which is going to make this really difficult for roots to penetrate. And you can see we do have root activity about 12 inches down, which is actually pretty good for Kentucky blue, but there's no white specks. I'm not really seeing any beneficial fungus on the roots. It's just brown. Chances are it's just being choked out. I mean, this clay, cool thing is you can make some cool stuff with it. You can make a ball. You could make a miniature bowl out of this. I mean, it's pretty cool. This lawn is so wet. We've probably got 4 feet of water in here. But check this out. We get here and it is so hard and compact. And this is about 15 inches down, and you break it and it just crumbles. And it's just hard as a rock. I want you guys to listen to this. It's the squishy dance. There's literally a pool of water under the soil. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm afraid I'm gonna fall into the lawn. It's like sand. I feel like the clay is just gonna suck me under. Every time I take a step, my foot sinks almost 2 inches. This is a bit much. It's like swampy, like a marsh. You definitely shouldn't be watering. I can only imagine what their water bill is like. This is crazy. We're gonna keep probing. Boom, still crazy. Nuts. Now let's see what happens in this area that's just slightly brown. It'll be interesting to see. But this clay though, oh my gosh. I could barely push it out. And guys, I used to work out at the gym. I used to be healthy, so, you know, it should be easy for me to get this out. I don't know if there are more of you out there that used to work out, but hey, we live strong. Check the brown spot. Still a significant amount of water. Oh my word, this clay. It's a lot of clay, guys. A lot of clay. So I was really hoping we had dry spots here, but just like usual, it's just melting out. Overwatering, and the melting out fungus is spreading. You know what the fish are telling me? There's too much water in the grass, guys. Not enough water in the pond. Sometimes it's just better to meditate about these situations with koi fish. Koi fish make everything all better. So me and the koi fish have decided that the homeowners have decided to flood their yard to put more water in the koi pond. But the fish wanted the homeowners to understand that the plan's not working out and that they need to just put the hose in the pond. Alright guys, next up is the thatch test. We want to see what's going on. I'm a little bit concerned though because of how wet it is, but let's check it out. So the thatch didn't do too bad. Actually, we have a pretty healthy layer. Nothing's out of control, which is nice. That was my first spot. Here's my second spot. As you can see, not an excess. I always do 2 feet by 3 feet just to make sure that we can check out and see what's going on. It's got a nice orange color. Now, here's where I ran into the problem. I tried to pull 3 thatch tests right here in the middle of the lawn, and I was about to rip the whole lawn out. It's too wet. Well, that wraps up the backyard, guys. I mean, that was pretty simple. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We've got too much water in the soil that's causing melting out and leaf spot fungus. Yeah, I think the front yard's got a couple things going on. We've got kind of a haziness. Like, it's not that Better Homes Garden like I like to see. And I'm hoping we don't have a repeat of the backyard, but that's possible. Now, we also have these areas in the lawn. These areas are kind of spotty, dryness, and really got to get the soil probe in there and see what's going on. But again, let's start with color and see what we're dealing with. All right, guys, well, it looks like we've got some more melting out, and it's the easiest thing to spot. That's the funniest thing, is once you get trained to see it, you can see it looks like the grass is a popsicle just kind of melting. I'm guessing here that once we take the soil probe, it's going to be soaking wet again, but then we have these strange just kind of issues going on. Now you can kind of see somewhat of a pattern. It's got a little bit of a horseshoe to it. You can see right in the middle, once you train your eye, you can kind of see these rounded edges in here. This one right here, you can see a complete circle around it. Let's get to the watering test right now, but you can see there's these patches of brown area. So we want to be fairly consistent here, even though we come to assumptions of the backyard. You know, I think it's safe to say we're probably going to have the same problem in the front yard. Sure enough, too much water, soaking wet. Well, guys, very safe to say they're overwatering. Even the brown spots have like 18 inches of water in it. The rest of it's just soaking wet. Stop watering so much. Water does not make everything green all the time. And in this case, more is not more. More equals brown, not more equals green. There is a point, and I know some of you old school people out there just want to flood it with water and that's going to fix everything. But the problem in this instance is the clay. The clay holds onto that water. It doesn't allow for the oxygen transfer, and the grass can't transpire fast enough. So guys, just getting back to the basics on how to recover and repair the leaf spot. My opinion, the best thing to do is to not hit it with a fungicide, but we stress the grass out to get it to release the fungus by itself. Now, the major issue is this is caused by not being able to transpire enough to keep up with evaporation. So the thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and dehydrate the lawn slightly. Now, I don't want the entire lawn brown per se. We just want to stress it out so it starts going that aqua color. And then once we do that, we're going to do a counterproductive thing, and we are going to put the water back into the soil. Now, we don't want to flood it back to this pool where it has 25 to 40 inches of water. We just want to get back to 6 to 8 inches of water depth. Now, if you guys are not sure how to do that, you need to do a water output test by putting cups out in the lawn and running a 20-minute cycle to see how much is coming out. Measure the cups. Take the average of how much is in the cup, and that will tell you your output per 20 minutes. Now, in my region, we need 6 to 8 inches of water in the soil, and this time of the year, where we're 90s and 100 degrees, we need 1.5 to 1 3/4 inches of water a week, and that's going to sustain Kentucky bluegrass because it's a very, very thirsty grass. Now, after we flood the water back in, you need to hit it with a nitrogen source. We're assuming at this point that we have deactivated the fungal matters and that we can start putting it back into growth mode. It's common with this fungus that the lawn stops growing. Once the lawn reaches about 4 to 5 inches in length, we want to cut the top off and cut the fungal layer off. This fungus is commonly spread by lawn mowing, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, for those of you guys who are worried about spreading out there, you can hit it with a product like Pillar G. Works really well at the same time if you're worried that you have to have a fungicide. So the thatch test was interesting. I mean, just like the backyard, we've got a healthy amount of dead grass, a healthy amount of thatch layer. Really don't want to change that. The areas that are have extra water in them, they just start pulling up and curling up. Not shocking, the roots aren't taking as well as we like in those areas. I kind of exposed a few problems I want to show you. So these areas, if you look closer, you can almost see a pattern. That whole chunk of grass is green, and then the outer edges are brown, and then it goes back to green, and then it has these almost circular patterns to it. This one in specific, I raked it so you could see it a little bit better. Circle. When we get over here, we have another circle shape, and another here, we have another circle shape. Typically shapes and patterns like this are going to be fungal related. Now in Utah, we have this nasty fungus that's been traveling. I know Colorado's really bad too, that causes these circles. It's called necrotic ring spot. So I know a lot of you guys out there are going to say the magical question, how does this happen? Well, guess what? This is Mother Nature's way of giving you the bird finger, for giving you all that urea-based fertilizers. We know that urea-based fertilizer is a causation. Now, this can also be spread by lawn aeration. So if you're ever getting lawn aerated by the friendly neighborhood kids and you got necrotic ring spot in your neighborhood, you got two choices. Tell them to wash the machine with hydrogen peroxide, or tell them no thank you. That's kind of the issue. Sometimes you get away with soapy water, but guys, you don't want this in your yard. No bueno. You know, the thing I find interesting about necrotic ring spot is it typically hangs out along the outside perimeter. So this whole area is your fungal layer on the outside edges. Now, what we want to do is we want to take a look at the root bases, and you can see they're fairly shallow, and you'll get these little nodes on them, and you can see that the tip ends are very thin and it's not uptaking nutrients, and that's one of the big signs of necrotic ring spot. Necrotic ring spot to me is a fascinating subject. This type of fungus, if you check on Colorado State University, Utah State University, Purdue, Cornell, they've done a lot of studies on necrotic ring spot. What we found out is necrotic ring spot is active at somewhere between 55 and 63 degrees at 3 inches under the soil. Generally, you don't want to treat it unless the ground temperatures sit at about, in the springtime, they need to be right around 55 degrees. In the fall time, they need to be at just about 65 degrees before you treat it with any fungicide. Carry the meat thermometer on me. It's a great way to measure soil temperatures. We're midsummer right now, and as you can see right here, we're sitting steady at 70 degrees. So we know the necrotic ring spot is not active as of right now. Now, I wanted to show you guys this little spot right here, and you can kind of see the circular pattern here once we get to this side. You're probably wondering, why in the world is it so green on this edge and so brown up in here? Well, it's my opinion on this. We're about 5th year necrotic ring spot. Sometimes this will appear to morph into summer patch. You get these giant blobs of deadness. Now, you can see somebody was pretty smart here, or they did it on accident, but they started introducing fescue with the blue, and fescue is a lot more resilient against necrotic ring spot than the bigger pieces of blue. And that's why, in my opinion, this area is less affected than the inside area, simply just because of the grass type. So one thing I recommend to all you guys out there in TV land, find yourself perennial ryegrass or a nice fescue that is not as affected to necrotic ring spot. All right, guys, so the fix on necrotic ring spot, there is no fix. As of right now, there's no known cure to this. There's a couple of reports coming out saying that this could be nematodal activity that is harboring the necrotic ring spot. I'm kind of 50-50 on that. I'm not sure I believe it just yet. The major issue is there's no curative measures. There's just masking symptoms. Very similar to some of the diseases that we have in our human bodies. You can manage the symptoms, can't cure the disease, and this is one of them. The thing that I recommend, a spring and fall fungicide, but I go back and forth on the fungicides because they're really just not good for nature. I mean, fungicides inherently, what they do is they have antifungal properties, but they also cause the plant to ingest nutrients at a rapid rate. So over time, you can technically sterilize the soil, then you're going to have a big dead patch from using too many fungicides. So I still recommend the fungicide, but you definitely need to treat with the micronutrients and reintroduce a 20-20-20 fertilizer, probably at 0.5 pounds of N per thousand, to really keep up with the fungicides. Otherwise, you're going to be pleasantly dissatisfied. Now, the other thing that you need to do is you need to keep the ground temperatures out of the range of 55 to 63 degrees. Which means lawn aeration is a really good thing, but you can also do it chemically. Manage your clay, manage the air, the oxygen rates going in and out, which means that daily watering is a big no-no. That will cool down the soil and get you back into those 60-degree temperatures, which we don't want to be. You want to water a maximum of 2 to 3 times a week. Now, the best thing to do to manage necrotic ring spot is to introduce more air, oxygen, and minerals into the soil. However, there's a couple of things that you could do. You can do an overseed and introduce some rhizomatous tall fescue. that's less prone to this disease. You're still going to have a few flare-ups, but it's going to look a lot better. The other thing is water management and lawn aeration. The more air that we can get in here, the better off we are. So given the fact that they have this much clay, I would actually suggest that they hire somebody to do a top dressing with sand on top of the lawn aeration. Very similar to what they do with aerification at a golf course. Now, on a curative level, y'all want to know what chemicals I'm going to be using, so I'll tell you. Tourney makes a fantastic fungicide. It's very expensive. It's my opinion, though, that this is a smart fungus. This disease figures out what it's using, and over time, the fungicides stop working. So I like to rotate my fungicides every year. I'll do a total of 4 applications. Some of the bottles will be rated at 2 applications back to back within 14 days of each other, and some will be 2 back to back within 30 days of each other. Now, Pillar G makes one heck of a product, and Howard Johnson also makes a fungicide. Now, you can technically use any fungicide, you just want to make sure you rotate the active ingredients every single year. If you don't rotate the active ingredients, it's my opinion it doesn't work. Now, on top of the fungicides, like I was telling you earlier, you need to replenish the nutrients in the soil. So I like to use a 20-20-20 granular. We use that at a half-pound rate, more ammonium nitrate than urea, obviously, because we don't want the fungus to activate. And then after that, apply micronutrients and mycorrhiza. That's going to replace the nutrients that the fungicide inherently is going to take out of the soil. Now, I would plan on treating with micronutrients many times you can throughout the year, because with the fungicides there, we want to avoid sterilizing the soil. To clean these spots up, my recommendation is to lightly rake out the dead. After you rake out the dead, you're going to want to make yourself a seed patch kit and fill in the dead areas. That's going to be the best way to manage it and to get it to grow again. My suggestion is start doing an overseed with a rhizomatous tall fescue that's going to be a little less prone to the disease. That way you're going to get a better growth. But the one thing I don't like to see people do is just to shove a different grass seed in here and leave it like that, so I suggest doing the entire lawn. All right, guys, wrapping this up. We know primary causation is overwatering. Now, we have a secondary fungal matter in the front yard that we're not going to be able to cure. We can just manage. So the tips for today: figure out your watering. Put together a solid watering strategy. Call your local extensions department, which is an extension of the agricultural department. They have studies saying how many inches of water you need on your lawn per week. Do an output test on your sprinklers, figure that out. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This is What's Wrong with My Lawn? Well, as you can see, they put way too much water in here. We got a melting out fungus. We got necrotic ring spot. If you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you guys like my videos, hit the bell. Anyway, talk to you later. Have a good one.